Hi everybody, Sam White here, founder at Shakespeare in Detroit. I hope you all are having an amazing holiday season. I wanted to stop by Shakespeare in Detroit's YouTube channel and chat with you all a little bit about Taming of the Shrew. In a previous video, we asked you all what play you'd rather see, Love's Labor's Lost or Taming of the Shrew during Shakespeare in Detroit's 2024 season. And between our Patreon members and those of you who answered on YouTube, it's looking like you all would prefer to see Shrew, which is exciting for all of us at Shakespeare in Detroit, which is exciting for me because I'll direct it. Because, I've always wanted to direct Taming of the Shrew. We haven't done it yet at Shakespeare in Detroit. We've done a reading. I can't remember what year we did that reading. But we've done a reading, but that's it. We have never produced Taming of the Shrew. And so I'm really excited about the prospect of putting the play on stage. It's interesting because in 2023, now moving into almost 2024, Taming of the Shrew is a bit controversial, I think, for a lot of people because, obviously the play was written 400 plus years ago, and the world is quite different than the time that Shakespeare wrote the play. But humanity, I say this all the time, publicly and privately, that humanity really doesn't change that much. I mean, our costumes change, right? I don't think anybody was walking around in a Grinch sweatshirt 400 or 500 years ago. So the costumes change that we wear every day, but humanity doesn't change. And I think, and I would love your thoughts in the comments, I think that Taming of the Shrew is an incredible case study on humanity, the feminine experience, womanhood, humanhood, psychology, social science. It's a really beautiful, I think, examination of relationships. Is this making sense? I hope so. Because for me, it makes total sense that Shrew is still relevant in 2023, 2024. And it'll be relevant 50, 100, 400, 500 years from now. Well, hopefully humanity is still well in here. In 400 or 500 years. Fingers crossed. But it's still relevant. That's the point. And we're excited about the possibility of producing it next year. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit and why I think so. And again, I'd love to hear your comments in the comment section here on YouTube. First of all, femininity, the human experience, humanity, womanhood, whatever you want to call it, is nuanced, complex, and not everyone is the same, right? And I'll speak in eyes, okay? I'll speak in eyes. I'll speak for myself. My experience as a person who identifies as a woman, I am a woman, is that there are many shades of Sam. You know what I mean? The way that I am in business, the way that I am when I'm teaching, the way that I am when I'm in a relationship, a romantic relationship, the way that I am with my family, the way that I am with my friends, all of those are different shades of me. They're all me, they're all authentic, but they're all different shades, right? So I might show up with a little less vulnerability in some places than others. I try to always be vulnerable, but I might be more vulnerable with my family, right? The folks who I know and I'm most comfortable with. I might be more vulnerable with them than I am with, say, my students, when I'm sort of the conduit of support and stability, and I'm the place where they can be vulnerable. I have to have a certain steadfastness, stability, and provide a certain level of security for them to be vulnerable with me. So I'm sort of I try to be anyway, the source of strength in that case. And I don't have to be so strong with my family, right? I can be much, softer. And in relationships, when you first start dating somebody, you're going to be much different 2 years in, when you're much more comfortable and you know the person a lot better. And I think that's the case with Kate, in Taming of the Shrew. She starts off, a bit feisty and ferocious, which I don't see a problem with a ferocious woman. Okay. Um, and, she's very adamant about not being married. Eventually, she decides that sure, she will marry Petruccio. And, you know, the starvation part where he sort of starves her and the, sleep deprivation part of it. For dramatic purposes, I get why it's a tool in Shakespeare's story that sort of amplifies the drama and makes the stakes higher, right, for Kate and Petruccio, specifically for Kate. But beyond that, I think it's totally realistic because sometimes, you might meet someone and the two of you don't immediately connect. And people in romantic relationships and other relationships, in professional relationships, people will test you all the time, right? That's sort of, babies will test their parents. It's sort of a part of our human experience. And Kate, no doubt, tests Petruccio because she doesn't want to get married. She doesn't want to be with anybody. She's a she's a big spirit that can't be contained, and I can totally relate to that. Take a sip. And I'm sure a lot of other people, humans, women, others, everybody, to some degree, can relate to wanting to stand in your own freedom and agency. And, because freedom is beautiful. And sometimes, especially when Shakespeare wrote Taming of the Shrew, marriage was looked at as probably, especially for somebody like Kate, as maybe a little bit of imprisonment. So she pushes back. And Petruccio uses, he does use a little bit of, some people might call it manipulation. And sure, fine, I'll buy into that. But I think it's a little bit of, cat and mouse. And a shrew, by the way, is a little mouse in the UK, that doesn't live a long time and doesn't sleep much. And if you don't know what shrew is, I'm going to put a description of it here for you. But it's a bit of cat and mouse, and it's fun. And I think of their relationship, Kate and Petruccio, as a bit, there's a lot of sexual tension there, which is why I'm excited to direct it and explore that, right? In the beginning, sort of the pushback that she gives him is a turn on for him. And she's quite curious about him because he seems so, even if it is a little manipulative, he seems so agreeable, and he's doing that on purpose to try to win her over. And friends, everybody has a favorite word these days, the T word, toxic. Must take sip here. Friends, everything isn't toxic. Sure, a lot of things in the world are very toxic, specifically oppressive systems that have brought people of color, women, and other marginalized communities down, who have kept us down for sure. Toxic people, toxic systems, and things exist for sure. In our production of Taming of the Shrew, that totally will be a topic of conversation because that's important, it's relevant, and totally appropriate to have that conversation. It matters in the conversation for sure. I'll acknowledge that first. But I also want to add this. It's still okay in our production of Shrew, I think, for Petruccio and Kate to flirt. I think it's okay for Kate and Petruccio to have some sexual tension, to sort of, poke at one another and have a little fun with the idea that, she is who she is and he is who he is, and in the end they find a way to live together, because I think that's what all people in relationships are doing. You know, if you're a full whole person and you meet another full whole person, two healthy people, you still have to find a way, and you bump heads sometimes and you run into walls sometimes as you are figuring the other person out. It doesn't always mean, sure, sometimes it does, but it doesn't always mean that things are toxic or weird or gross or unhealthy. Two whole people, two full people have to find a way, you know, to live together. And eventually they do. And that's what happens with Petruccio and Kate. And even in the end, when she's what some would perceive less ferocious, I think that she uses her sensuality, her sexuality, her domestic prowess, you know, to attract and, you know, maybe even seduce her husband a little bit, you know. So in the beginning, she's this ferocious, rebellious spirit who then gets married, and again, I'm not talking about the starvation and the sleep deprivation. That's definitely toxic and weird. But there is a dramatic tool via Shakespeare, right? But what if Taming of the Shrew is a case study on the many shades of relationships, of women, of humanity, and all of its complexity and imperfection? What if it's not a scary thing or a scary subject matter to discuss in 2023 and 24? Let's have the controversial conversation about misogyny or the patriarchy or femininity or manipulation, or the word that I'm not that big of a fan of, toxicity. You know, let's talk about all those things. But if we're going to have that conversation, can we also call it fair to have a conversation about flirtation, sensuality, nuance? You know, can we have both of those conversations so that we're not canceling a play that is still relevant, still matters? And that, I think, based on your feedback here on YouTube and on Patreon, and if you're not a Patreon member and you want to become a member and get insider news, have access to monthly contests, prizes, perks, we'll leave the link in the description of this YouTube channel. But based on your feedback, based on all of the ideas and energy I have around this play as the person who will probably direct it, I think that Taming of the Shrew is a viable candidate for Shakespeare in Detroit's 2024 season. Tell me what you think in the comments here on YouTube. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is it still a relevant play, Taming of the Shrew? What are your thoughts around Kate and how she changes from the first half of the play to the latter part of the play? I haven't seen the play in a while. People don't seem to produce it as much in the last few years. Have you seen a production? How was that production? You know, not in a sort of critiquing the production and the, you know, artistic integrity, but more sort of how did they tell the story and how did it resonate with you? We'd just love to hear your thoughts in general about Taming of the Shrew. And if you're still excited about Shakespeare in Detroit producing the play in 2024, let us know. Thank you for tuning into our YouTube channel. We're so excited that you're here. And if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to Shakespeare in Detroit's YouTube channel, because you don't want to miss any content from Shakespeare in Detroit, Detroit's premier classical theater. I hope to see you soon at Taming of the Shrew. Bye.